A third spirit stood behind their hidden core, a mass of superconscience clothed in light, creator of things in his all-knowing sleep. His slumber is an almightiness in seeing. Awake, he is the eternal and supreme. Above was the brooding bliss of the infinite, its omniscient and omnipotent repose, its immobile silence, absolute and alone. He seemed the wideness of a boundless sky. He seemed the passion of a sorrowless earth. He seemed the burning of worldwide sun. To look upon each other, soul, soul, soul. Then, like an anthem from the heart's lucent cave, a voice soared up, whose magic sound could turn the poignant weeping of the earth to sobs of rapture, and her cry to spirit song. A smile came ripening out in her wide eyes. Then, with a smile august as noonday heaven, the Godhead of the vision wonderful. How shall earth's nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, yet earth abide? O flame, withdraw into thy luminous self, or else return to thy original night. On a sheer summit above thought and word, but Savitri answered to the radiant God, in vain thou temptest with solitary bliss, two spirits saved out of a suffering world. Since God has made earth, earth must make in her God. What hides within her breast, she must reveal. But the God answered to the woman's heart, O living power of the incarnate Word, arise upon a ladder of great words to the infinity where no word can be. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on them. In an ineffable world, she lived fulfilled, an energy of the triune infinite. In a measureless reality, she dwelt. Around her, some tremendous spirit lived, mysterious flame around a melting pearl, and in the phantom of abolished space there was a voice unheard by ears that cried, choose, Spirit, thy supreme choice, not given again. Accept, O music weariness of notes, O stream wide breaking of thy channel banks, and silently the woman's heart replied, thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep, amid the roar and run of wild time, for the magnificent soul of man on earth. Limitless like ocean round a lonely isle, a second time the eternal cry arose. Wide open are the ineffable gates in front. Immeasurable, the woman's nature spoke. Thy oneness, Lord, in many approaching heart, a third time swelled the great admonishing call. I spread abroad the refuge of my wings. The sob of things was answer to the voice, and passionately the woman's heart replied, thy energy, Lord, to seize on woman and man, to take all things and creatures in their grief and gather them into a mother's arms. Solemn and distant, like a I open the wide eye of solitude to uncover the voidless structure of my bliss. Then all the woman yearningly replied, thy embrace, which rends the living knot of pain, thy joy, O Lord, in which all creatures breathe, thy magic flowing waters of deep love, thy sweetness give to me, to earth and men.
Good morning. So we're continuing in Book 11, the Book of Everlasting Day, on page 693. Savitri has been going back and forth with this supreme being that she has encountered in these supramental worlds, these worlds of light. And he has been arguing and that she should rise up into this world of light and leave behind the earth and men, that she can rise with Satyavan and live in this world of bliss and light. And Savitri has been countering that she doesn't want to do this, that she and Satyavan were born to uplift the earth and men, to lift them up into the light. And she wants and insists that Satyavan's soul be given back to the earth. So this back and forth continues, and we ended last time with Savitri's arguments to this being on page 693. And I want to I'll just repeat part of that last passage that we read from the top of page 693. And it raised up some interesting issues about mankind and the superhumanity that would follow. And before we continue, I want to just read a short passage from the Life Divine in which Sri Aurobindo discusses these issues, because it will also continue afterwards, we'll see in Savitri. But let me just revisit this last passage that we read. To be is not a senseless paradox. Since God has made earth, earth must make in her God. What hides within her breast, she must reveal. I claim thee for the world that thou hast made. If man lives bound to his humanity, if he is tied forever to his pain, let a greater being then arise from man, the superhuman with the eternal mate, and the immortal shine through earthly forms. Else were creation vain, and this great world a nothing that in time's moment seems to be. But I have seen through the insentient mask. I have felt a secret spirit stir in things, carrying the body of the growing God. It looks through veiling forms at veilless truth. It pushes back the curtain of the gods. It climbs towards its own eternity. So there's two kind of issues raised there. One is this new being arising out of humanity, and the question of humanity itself. What happens with mankind? So next, this passage is not from Life Divine. It's from the supramental manifestation upon earth, which these are the last prose writings of Sri Aurobindo's, and this is kind of the third to the last chapter in that. It's in the chapter called Supermind in the Evolution, and it's at the bottom of page 583. And the next page. And then he'll continue describing these issues in the next chapter called The Mind of Light. But I think this gives us a kind of a brief summary and the fundamental issue. So last paragraph on page 583, and this is in the volume Essays in Philosophy and Yoga. The full emergence of supermind may be accomplished by a sovereign manifestation, a descent into earth consciousness, and a rapid assumption of its powers and disclosing of its forms, and the creation of a supramental race and a supramental life. This must indeed be the full result of its action in nature. But this has not been the habit of evolutionary nature in the past upon earth, and it may well be that this supramental evolution also will fix its own periods, though it cannot be at all a similar development to that of which Earth has hitherto been the witness. But once it has begun, all must unavoidably and perfectly manifest, and all parts of nature must tend towards a greatest possible luminousness and perfection. It is this authority No, it is this certainty that authorizes us to believe that mind and humanity also will tend towards a realization that will be far beyond our present dreams of perfection. A mind of light will replace the present confusion and trouble of this earthly ignorance. It is likely that even those parts of humanity which cannot reach it will yet be aware of its possibility and consciously tend towards it. Not only so, but the life of humanity will be enlightened, uplifted, governed, harmonized by this luminous principle. And even the body becomes something much less powerless, obscure, and animal in its propensities, and capable instead of a new and harmonized perfection. It is this possibility that we have to look at, and that would mean a new humanity uplifted into light, capable of a spiritualized being and action, open to governance by some light of the truth consciousness, capable, even on the mental level and in its own order, of something that might be called the beginning of a divinized life. So we see that he foresees a changed, uplifted, even divinized humanity, either as a precursor or as a successor of this supramental being that he sees arising out of humanity. He doesn't make that order clear. Here he's suggesting a kind of an order of evolution, so that kind of preceding perhaps that supramental being, which he calls, which is a uniquely different type of being than the human being. And in the following chapter, he begins even it's this right, this mind of light is in effect a supramentalized mind. So it's a mind that is reflecting that supramental light. But it's also having its effect on all the other aspects, on the life and the body. And we get from Mother that she herself had realized that and was in effect that kind of intermediary being. So here, I'll just describe a little bit of this mind of light. Its mentality would be an instrument of the light and no longer of the ignorance. At its highest, it would be capable of passing into the supermind. And from the new race would be recruited the race of supramental beings who would appear as the leaders of the evolution in earth nature. Even the highest manifestations of a mind of light would be an instrumentality of the supermind, a part of it, or a projection from it, a stepping beyond humanity into the superhumanity of the supramental principle. Above all, its possession would enable the human being to rise beyond the normalities of his present thinking, feeling, and being into those highest powers of the mind in its self-exceedings, which intervene between our mentality and supermind and can be regarded as steps leading towards the greater and more luminous principle. This advance, like others in the evolution, might not be reached and would naturally not be reached at one bound, but from the very beginning it would be inevitable. The pressure of the supermind, creating from above out of itself the mind of light, would compel this certainty of the eventual outcome. The first gleamings of the new light would carry in themselves the seed of its highest flamings. Even in the first beginnings, the certainty of their topmost powers would be there. For this is the constant story of each evolutionary emergence. The principle of its highest perfection lies concealed in the involution which precedes and necessitates the evolution of the secret principle. So there we get Sri Aurobindo's views of this emergence. Of the supramental being and this superhumanity, this intermediary being. But still, yet this being of light in Savitri is not conceding to these ideas. So let's.
Doesn't this supramental being always keep looking throughout history different ways? Today, of course, is Easter Sunday. So Jesus rises out of the dead.
Yeah.
So we have all these proofs throughout history that this is the evolutionary process. Becomes more and more manifest in time.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's nice of you to mention this Easter Sunday when Christ rose from the dead and manifested something of this light. And I think you're right that there are always these small manifestations, individual manifestations of the principle before it happens on that wider scale, which would include all of humanity, what Sri Aurobindo is describing, that all of humanity would be uplifted into at least a higher principle of mind, and this greater emergence of a race of beings. So there have been, I think, many kind of individual realizations along the way that foreshadow kind of this higher or wider emergence taking place. Yeah, yeah.
All these rural type lineages to have all these different aspects manifesting in very different ways, but continually happening even today.
Yeah. There was some letter I just recently read of Sri Aurobindo's, and somebody was asking, well, didn't like the supermind descend on that November 24th, 1926? And he said no, that was kind of an over-mental descent into his physical, but that it foreshadowed also the coming of the supramental realization. But at the same time, well, the questioner asked, but you're speaking, you're writing about the supramental, so you must know it, you must have realized it. And he says, well, knowing about supermind is different than kind of bringing it down and having established it. It was quite possible for him to see the supermind and be able to look into it and even receive in his mind its light, but to fix it into the physical and establish it as a principle on earth was still something that he was working on. So there have been, I think, many ascents into that supramental light, gaining that knowledge, at least as reflected in their mind by the Vedic rishis, for they also are describing that supramental consciousness. So they know something of it. Rita, right. The truth, the right, the vast. Sri Aurobindo translates their Sanskrit terminology for it. But now let's continue and read this being of lights. Right, we have a descent. Not only mother, a kind of a broader descent into the earth consciousness. Right. Well, she speaks of it as a descent into the earth atmosphere of the supramental light and force, and that then begins kind of its working on a wider scale. And she continues after that for the next 17 years of her life to bring it more fully down into her own physical being. Yeah, and as she's bringing it into her own physical, also she's seeing its effects in the wider earth consciousness. Right. right? This intermediary being. So Satprem speaks of it in Agenda as the Superman consciousness, and Van Vreckum refers to it as Overman. But it's this intermediary kind of consciousness, and Mother speaks of that as operating already in the atmosphere of the earth and seeking instruments through which to manifest. Because no longer is it a kind of a strictly individual kind of consciousness, because it's at a realm of consciousness and being that is universalized. Yeah. Okay, Tinika, can you begin halfway down the page on 693? But the God answered.
Answered to the woman's heart, O living power of the incarnate Word, canst create. Thou art the force by which I made the worlds. Thou art my vision and my will and voice. But knowledge too is thine, the world plan thou knowest, and the tardy process of the pace of time. In the impetuous drive of thy heart of flame, in thy passion to deliver man and earth, indignant at the impediments of time and the slow evolution's sluggard steps, lead not the spirit in an ignorant world to dare too soon the adventure of the light. Pushing the bound and slumbering God in man, awakened mid the ineffable silences into endless vistas of the unknown and unseen, across the last confines of the limiting mind, and a superconscious perilous borderline into the danger of the infinite.
Thank you. Let's pause. So the being replies to Savitri, acknowledging her as the power of the incarnate Word and the force by which I made the worlds. Thou art my vision and my will and voice. But he says, still, knowledge also is yours, and you see the slow process of evolution, the gradual unfolding of this spiritual consciousness in time. Wait for this process to unfold. Don't push it. Don't push humanity to venture into this infinite consciousness prematurely. It'll lose its footing, its base. It'll lose itself in the infinite. Lead not the spirit in an ignorant world to dare too soon the adventure of the light, pushing the bound and slumbering God and man, awakened mid the ineffable silences into endless vistas of the unknown and unseen, across the last confines of the limiting mind and the superconscious perilous borderline into the danger of the infinite. Mm. Yeah. So we see that there is in Sri Aurobindo's prophecies here in this canto a respect for time. He says towards the end, all will be fulfilled through my instrument of time. So there is some respect for that, but yet they are pushing. They are still pushing for a manifestation now or soon, and not waiting for the slow process of the evolution which has been proceeding with the inconscient at its foundation. And it's especially that inconscient foundation that is the retarding influence. But with the manifestation of the supramental light, that foundation is also being changed. So the idea was also to bring the supramental light into the subconscious and even into the inconscient and change those foundations so that that retarding influence could be alleviated.
Do you remember this It Is Done, but It Is Done, that pamphlet that came out? Was it toward the end, the agenda is writing, and she used the supramental spirit, and everything is done, but he says that they're waiting for their cooperation. And she says, well, who's they? He says the Auroville.
Oh.
It's written in that book.
Oh, yeah.
Book that is called It Is Done. It was put together by Sherry Josie and Josie.
In Auroville?
Yeah.
So the booklet, It Is Done, published in Auroville, and speaks of
she tells you of how this supramental is already here, and that spirit is telling her it's here. But we need their cooperation. And she asks who are they?
Well, that's very interesting. Yeah. So just for those that outside that aren't able to hear B, so he's saying that in this booklet, Mother said that she's waiting for this full manifestation to come, waiting for the Aurovillians to cooperate. Or
No, she is saying that it's what's holding this thing back.
Right.
And the spirit says.
Oh, the spirits.
Their cooperation.
Oh.
And then she says, well, who is it? Who are we talking about?
Yeah.
Then the spirit says,
so the spirit says. Okay, the spirit says, not Mother.
Yeah. Spirit says that.
Okay.
And it's right toward the end of the book. I think it's called It Is Done. Isn't it right? It is done, but it's done, I think it's twice. Yeah, it's full. So she says
Right.
it's done, and then they use that as a forward as the title of the book.
Okay, Margaret.
It goes through the things and then the last parts. Where I'm about to supplement.
Okay, Margaret.
I just mention also for the next part about Savitri, and she commented very clearly in this video that the text will come out in that it is the cooperation is needed. That is the thing. And she said also that all the possibilities had been before this man, but they had been stolen. And the new consciousness can use this all this, but it's needed the cooperation. So it is the same basic issue, that this cooperation of the new consciousness also is possible. And she also mentioned that what is needed first is the body. The body has to be disguised. So that is.
So again, Mother is speaking of the need for the cooperation of humanity, I think.
She calls it lawful collaboration. She writes so explicitly. The spirit of Auroville is collaboration. So if there's not collaboration, you can't have Auroville. That's right.
Let's continue in the poem. Top of page 694.
But if thou wilt not wait for time and God, do then thy work and force thy will on fate. As I have taken from thee my load of night, and taken from thee my twilight's doubts and dreams, so now I take my light of utter day. These are my symbol kingdoms, but not here can the great choice be made that fixes fate or uttered the sanction of the voice supreme. Arise upon a ladder of greater worlds to the infinity where no world can be, but not in the wide air where greater life uplifts its mystery and its miracle, and not on the luminous peaks of summit mind, or in the hold where subtle matter spirits hides in its light of shimmering secrecy, can there be heard the eternal's firm command that joins the head of destiny to its base. These only are the mediating links. Not theirs is the originating side, nor the fulfilling act or last support that bears perpetually the cosmic pile.
Thank you. Let's pause. So it seems here that this being is beginning to accede, agree to Savitri's will. He's already said that she represents his will. But he's telling her, you have to ascend still further to a higher station where you can impose thy will on time and the evolution. You have to go beyond where there is no world. So he says, arise upon a ladder of greater worlds to the infinity where no world can be. And then further, not on the luminous peaks of summit mind can there be heard the Eternal's firm command that joins the head of destiny to its base. These only are the mediating links, not theirs the originating sight, nor the fulfilling act or last support that bears perpetually the cosmic pile. She has to go beyond the manifestation as a whole, including its inconscient base and all those mediating links up to the summits. She has to go beyond all of that to where the base and the summit are joined.
What do you mean when you say, as I have taken from thee my load of night?
Yeah, before she was arguing with death, and he was insisting on his absolute authority, of his absolute truth, that he was God, this darkness, this void. And she vanquished him with the light. And then she entered into this kingdom of light and meets this being of light. And he's asking her to ascend into that realm of light and leave behind the earth, just as the Lord of darkness was asking her to leave behind the earth. Leave Satyavan, leave the Satyavan. So now he's also asking her to leave behind the earth into the light, and she's refusing. So now he takes away that demand. He says, okay, you want to change the world, human destiny, then you have to rise beyond into the truth where you can do that, into the ultimate realm, I guess, or consciousness. And he'll continue describing where she has to go, I think. Right.
And that is something strong enough in the mind, the separation of higher and lower.
Right.
interesting, and it's expressed, but not in the limited use of some mind, for on the whole, the subject matter spirit lies in its life. No? So it's not in the mind.
Yes. Yeah, you're raising an interesting point of this place where she has to go, where destiny of earth and its inconscient base are united into one vision, one thing, one reality. She has to see that as one and not divorced light into darkness or light from darkness. And that's what mind tends to do, to divide. So even at the summit mind, the summits of mind, the two are divorced. She has to go beyond that, where there is this one vision of all. The light and the darkness are seen in one vision.
But is it beyond the cosmic pile?
Yes, beyond the cosmic pile. So let's continue. B can read.
Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit foresees, matter unfolds its thought, the dumb executor of God's decrees, omitting no iota and no dot. Agent unquestioning, inconscient, stark, evolving inevitably a charged content, intention of his force in time and space, in animate beings and inanimate things, immutably it fulfills its ordered task. It cancels not a tittle of things done. Unswerving from the oracular command, it alters not the steps of the unseen. If thou must indeed deliver man and earth, on the spiritual heights, look down on life, discover the truth of God and man and world, then do thy task, knowing and seeing all. Ascend, O soul, into the timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on time.
Thank you. So here, again, he's looking at the manifestation through this polarity of matter and spirit. Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit foresees, matter unfolds its thought. And then he further describes this matter unfolding the Spirit's thought, intention, God's will in the course of time as an agent, unquestioning, inconscient, stark, evolving inevitably a charged content. So the evolution is again proceeding with this inconscient basis of matter. And so it's slowly evolving, slowly revealing the spirit that is within it. But it's doing it, in a sense, inconsciently, according to its own laws and rhythm. And now Savitri is asking for something else. And he's offering, you can stamp thy will on time. You can create or hasten this evolution. But in order to do so, you need to ascend into thy timeless self. So from there, she can choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on time. Margaret?
Interesting also this aspect of the matter, the one of the system works, but making no iota of movement in this quality of matter.
Yeah, that's interesting. The way that matter unfolds the Spirit's intention, it does so perfectly and in detail. Kind of, it suggests almost like every step of that unfolding of the Spirit in matter, every step is taken.
So that when the higher force comes down, that has to be kept because the mother was very much this quality, to look at every detail.
But it's interesting also how the inconscient does that, that it unfolds that intention within it, even though it's inconscient, and does so kind of in a mechanical way through these mechanical mechanisms of nature, yet it inevitably fulfills that superconscient spiritual intention within it.
What is your title?
What?
Title. In concepts now the title.
Oh, tittle. It's just a very minute, minuscule detail.
So what is he saying? He's saying that you must die, or
No, he's talking about nature and matter unfolding the will of the Spirit in time, that it does so perfectly and it does so in every detail, in fullness. Doesn't skip any parts along the way. That's in a way why we have such this great diversity that we see in the manifestation, this great diversity of, living organisms on Earth that manifest every stage of this ascent. From the simplest one-celled organisms to the greatest seers and sages that we've attained in humanity. All the links are there, all the different beings manifesting each stage of that evolution. Many now extinct, but along the way they were there.
Basically, saying you can't change anything for material reality.
Yeah.
It cancels not anything without means. So I think it altered not the steps. So if you want to change something, you have to.
Right, right.
But there is also the question of the moon, right? Which is what Savitri means. So to order of faith, not only necessary perhaps to ascend the time itself, but can also ask for a moon for this.
Well, let's see what happens.
Very interesting here, because that's not the steps of the unseen. As we mentioned before, in matter itself, creating the world, introducing also the higher.
Yes, it's the will of the divine here unfolding itself in the course of nature's evolution.
Because the same argument happened with Satyavati.
Mm-hmm.
And the words of Savitri was a result of Auroville. So similar arguments made by the divine. They grow hurry, slow, dance of Shiva, and all that.
Right.
Wishing to work some form of fear.
Right.
So there is the possibility of boon or prayer.
Right. Well, he's inviting her. He says, you can do this, just ascend. And now let's see what happens. So, Brian, can you continue?
He ended, and upon the falling sound, a power went forth that shook the founded spheres and loosed the stakes that hold the tents of form, absolved from vision's grip and the folds of thought, wrapped from her sense like disappearing scenes in this stupendous theatre of space. The heaven worlds vanished in spiritual light. A movement was abroad, a cry, a word, beginningless in its vast discovery, momentless in its unthinkable return. Quiet in calm seas, she heard the eternal thought, rhythming itself abroad, unutterably. In spaceless orbits and on timeless roads, in an ineffable world she lived fulfilled, an energy of the triune infinite. In a measureless reality she dwelt, a rapture and a being and a force, a linked and myriad motioned plenitude, a virgin unity, a luminous spouse, housing a multitudinous embrace to marry all in God's immense delight, bearing the eternity of every spirit, bearing the burden of universal love, a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls.
Thank you. Let's pause. So this state in which she enters is a little mysterious, but we could say that perhaps this is her timeless self, which he was asking her to ascend into. And you see that from that realm, a power went forth that loosened the stakes that hold the tents of form. And that suggests to me loosening that inconscient basis of matter in which holds form. And so then, wrapped from her sense like disappearing scenes in the stupendous theater of space, the heaven worlds vanished in spiritual light. Earlier, he had asked her, "Arise upon a ladder of greater worlds to the infinity where no world can be." And here these kind of spiritual worlds vanish in the light. And then some force is emanating from this state, but it's interesting, and it seems to be emphasized that this state is not divorced also from the material world, that it's oneness, it's one with it, and it's having its effects there in the material world. Rhythming itself abroad unutterably in spaceless orbits and on timeless roads. In an ineffable world. Huh? Ineffable is unable to be expressed in speech or in thought. But it's interesting that he uses the word world here, which it seemed like she had gone beyond, but in this ineffable world she lived fulfilled, an energy of the triune infinite. In a measureless reality she dwelt. Triune, it's a trinity that have underlying oneness. We could say maybe Satchidananda. So that's another trinity. The transcendent, the cosmic, the individual, or immanent divine. Mm. That's another trinity. Past, present, future. But in a measureless reality, she dwelt. And then, so we see again a rapture and a being and a force. That's also kind of Satchidananda. A linked and myriad motioned plenitude, a virgin unity, a luminous spouse, housing a multitudinous embrace to marry all in God's immense delight, bearing the eternity of every spirit, bearing the burden of universal love, a wonderful mother of unnumbered souls.
So she really did it. Because of her intentionality, when that voice was telling her she has to go higher.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So then, as a result, it all happened.
Right. And she's unified with all, right? She's unified with the world and with the transcendent.
The one and the many got together,
Yeah.
the fragments got together,
Yeah.
all came together in one mother for babies.
Mm.
She's still connected to the manifestation.
Yeah, yeah. She's embracing it all as the mother. So in a sense, too, like you say, she's embodying that transcendent, cosmic, and immanent divine. She's unifying it all with the transcendent.
But she, you have this virgin unity and luminous spouse.
Yeah.
You have this joining of everything,
Mm.
oneness, but at the same time, without the contradiction.
Mm.
Because she's in the light now, the darkness is gone, now she's in the light.
Yeah.
Now she's serving.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll just.
Can you speak about more of this quiet
Well, I think she's in the silence of the spirit. She hears the word of the divine will. And from there, she's able to stamp her will on time.
But it's funny because it seems to have happened in a kind of earthquake.
Yeah.
The power and force that shook the founding spheres and moved the space of all dimensions.
That action by the Supreme, right?
Enormous cosmic earthquake.
Okay, we'll just quickly read and then we'll maybe end it with that.
I start with a crypt.
All things she knew.
All things she knew, all things imagined or willed. Her ear was open to ideal sound. Shape the convention bound no more her sight. 1,000 doors of oneness was her heart. A crypt and sanctuary of brooding light appeared, the last recess of things beyond. Then in its rounds the enormous fiat paused. Silence gave back to the unknowable all it had given. Still was a listening thought. The form of things had ceased within her soul, invisible that perfect Godhead now. Around her some tremendous spirit lived, mysterious flame around a melting pearl, and in the phantom of abolished space, there was a voice unheard by ears that cried, "Choose, Spirit, thy supreme choice not given again, for now from our highest being looks at thee, the nameless, formless peace where all things rest."
Thank you. Pause. So let's leave it for there. We can pick up and discuss that some more next time. Make it a little short. Where there's a natural pause in her voice, there you can stop. Okay.
A third spirit stood behind their hidden goal, a mass of superconscience clothed in light, creator of things in his all-knowing sleep. His slumber is an almightiness in seeing. Awake, he is the eternal and supreme. Above was the brooding bliss of the infinite. Its omniscient and omnipotent repose, its immobile silence, absolute and alone. He seemed the wideness of a boundless sky. He seemed the passion of a sorrowless earth. He seemed the burning of worldwide sun. To look upon each other, soul saw soul. Then, like an anthem from the heart's lucent gate, a voice soared up, whose magic sound could turn the poignant weeping of the earth to sobs of rapture, and her cry to spirit song. A smile came ripening out in her wide eyes. Then, with a smile august as noonday heaven, the Godhead of the vision wonderful. How shall earth's nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, yet earth abide? O flame, withdraw into thy luminous self, or else return to thy original night. On a seer summit above thought and word, But Savitri answered to the radiant God, in vain thou temptest with solitary bliss two spirits saved out of a suffering world. Since God has made earth, earth must make in her God. What hides within her breast, she must reveal. But the God answered to the woman's heart, O living power of the incarnate Word, arise upon a ladder of great words to the infinity where no world can be. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on them. In an ineffable world, she lived fulfilled, an energy of the triune infinite. In a measureless reality, she dwelt. Around her, some tremendous spirit lived, mysterious flame around a melting pearl, and in the phantom of abolished space, there was a voice unheard by ears that cried, choose, Spirit, thy supreme choice, not given again. Accept, O music weariness of notes, O stream wide breaking of thy channel banks, and silently the woman's heart replied, thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep, amid the roar and run of wild time, for the magnificent soul of man on earth. Limitless like ocean round a lonely isle, a second time the eternal cry arose. Wide open are the ineffable gates in front. Immeasurable, the woman's nature spoke. Thy oneness, Lord, in many approaching heart, a third time swelled the great admonishing call. I spread abroad the refuge of my wings. The sob of things was answer to the voice, and passionately the woman's heart replied, Thy energy, Lord, to seize on woman and man, to take all things and creatures in their grief and gather them into a mother's arms. Solemn and distant, like a seraph's laugh, a last great time, the warning sound was heard. I opened the wide eye of solitude to uncover the voiceless rapture of my bliss. Then all the woman yearningly replied, Thy embrace, which rends the living knot of pain. Thy joy, O Lord, in which all creatures breathe. Thy magic flowing waters of deep love, thy sweetness give to me, to earth and men.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.